Okay, good morning. Sorry, I am a little late. So we are going to do today some of Testament Bays. I thought we would start today just mentioning a bit of a question on the sort of logistics of what we learned yesterday. So yesterday we did the two stories. Thank you. Yesterday we did the two stories about um, uh, Rabbi Yochanan with his nephew. So the Gemara tells us in Bava Metzia more about the background there. We'll just run through it quickly. The Gemara tells us there's a story that Rabbi Yochanan was once swimming in the Yarden. And Rish Lakish thought he was a very beautiful woman. The reason that was possible was aside from the fact that Rebbe was one of the most beautiful people in the world. The Gemara says he's one of the foremost beautiful people. Rebbe said about himself, I was one of the most handsome people. Was because of the fact that he didn't have a Hadras Panim. Rashi explains over him he didn't have a beard. So the Gemara says that Rabbi Yochanan, when Rish Lakish jumped into the Yarden to catch him, he thought he was a beautiful woman. She says, wow, you have such an unbelievable strength. So he said to him, why don't you come back to be Jewish? Taisus over here points out that maybe Rish Lakish was not actually what everyone always says, that he was just a robber. Taisus points out that maybe, in fact, Rabbi Yochanan was doing kiruv, that he had not, you would think it's kiruv for chaykim, this is kiruv krayim, in the sense that he was actually religious and was in a bit of a down spell, and Rabbi Yochanan brought him back. So he was not very interested. And he said, listen, if you come back, if you return back to the religion, you can marry my sister, who's even more beautiful than me. So Kabbalah, he accepted, and in fact, that's what happened. And that's how you have the story that we have about his sister saying to the boy, don't talk to him anymore because I don't want to happen to you what happened to my husband. So the Gemara then continues. So he becomes this great Talmud Chacham, and one day during the Beis Medrash, the Gemara first tells us that he was attempting to steal some of his feasts that he used to, but he couldn't do it anymore. Why? Because Torah is that makes you like weak. Fine. Then in the Beis Medrash one day, one of these certain things Mikabel Tuma. Is it Mishas Gemar Melachton or is it Mishit Sifrim Mekivshin? So, but what is the Gemar Malacha? When you put it, when you like putting it in the oven to like remove the impurities, or as Rish Lakish says, after you take it out of the oven, Mishit Tzaktikul Mayim. Now you're pouring water on it to be able to use. So Amar Lei, Rav Yochanan says to Rish Lakish, Lister Bluster Yoda, right? A robber like yourself knows when these kind of weapons are ready to be used. Rish Lakish was, the captain of the robbers. He's now become a huge Talmud Chacham. And Rav Yochanan is telling him, Lister Bluster, right? You big robber. So Amar Lei, Rish Lakish says, my honestly, and what did I gain from all of my changed life? Hasim Rebbe Karli, Hacha Rebbe Karli. They called me Rebbe when I was the master Ganef. I was the boss. Now they call me Rebbe because I'm Rebbe Shimon Lakish. What did I gain? So Amar Lei, Rabbi Yochanan says to him, Ahane loch da krivnoch tachas kanfei shchina. It helps because I brought you now underneath the shchina. What do you mean? What does it help? But who started up? Rabbi Yochanan called him Lista Blue Star. Rabbi Shlosh is arguing him on halacha. He's saying no, it's considered Gemar Malacha Mishitzak Tzachav Mayim, and Rabbi Yochanan is saying no, it's when it's being put into the fire. Mishitzar from Mekivsha. Cholash daiti to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan got upset. Cholash Rish Lakish. When Rabbi Yochanan gets upset, things happen. Rabbi Yochanan looks at somebody and not go ahead. Things happen. So what happened is. Rish Lakish is on his deathbed. Asoy achte kobachia. The sister came along, was crying to Rabbi Yochanan. Amrle ase b'shel b'ni. Please, be meichel him. So for the benefit of my sons, he shouldn't be an orphan. Amrle azva yisemech ani. Right, I'll take care of you, Yisemem. So then she says, ase b'shel manusi. Ani achai. Right, she said, I'll take care of him. So she says to him, ase b'shel manusi. I don't want to be a widow. Forget my son. I don't want to be a widow. So Amar Allah, Your widowhood will be reliant on me. I'll take care of you. Nech nafshi Reb Shimon Lakish. Rish Lakish died. Rabbi Yochanan was very upset. Rabbi Yochanan was very angry, very sad. Amar Rabbana, my lezer litve daite. Who are we going to send to try to calm him down? Nezer Blazer ben Padas. We're going to send Blazer ben Padas. We've talked to Rabbi Blazer. Right, Rabbi Blazer, who sometimes forgets to mention Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan get upset about him. We talked about the Gemara and Yavamas on Saudi Bays there, where Rabbi Yochanan got very angry, and Rabbi Amir Rasi, we hit a little bit in Taanit. We touched on it, right? We touched on a little bit in Taanit. That Rabbi Rasi made a suggestion that. Remember about the Gemara about was it the suggestion of the Ravasi was suggesting we said like how could it be Rabbi Lezer saying something different than Rabbi Yochanan? So here the Gemara is saying that they sent Rabbi Lezer ben Padas, who's very sharp. So Ozli Yasef Kame Kol Milsa to have an Omar Rabbi Yochanan Amalei Taanit Messiah. Whatever Rabbi Yochanan said, he said, "Oh, I have a raya. I have a raya from a brayso. Amalei At Kvar Lekisha." He says, "You think you're a sluggish?" Balakisha Kavim in Milsavim actually asked Rabbi on Kushaisa. Umarfikin asked Rabbi Prugi. Right when he would deal with me, when we would learn, he asked me 24 kashas. I have to come up with 24 terutzim. And that way Torah was enhanced. And you're telling me rayas. Otu. Right? So what basically happens is he can't find a good chavrusa. Right? Otu Yadana, the Shabbat come in. You think I don't know that I'm saying good? You're telling me a raya. I know I say good. So Rabbi Yochanan would go around. He was like ripping his clothing. He was like running around, walking around. He's walking around, right? Saying, "Where's Rish Lakish? Where's Rish Lakish?" Like when he's like pulling out his clothing. Where's Rish Lakish? And he's crying, "Where's Rish Lakish? Where's Rish Lakish?" Until his mind is lost. The rabbis davened he should die, and he died. That's the story. What's the problem with Agamar here? This story is mashma that there was a nephew that he had who became a big expert in Tanakh, and he was talking to him and learning. Right? One day they were talking about aser to aser. The next day they were talking about a situation of, whether or not there has to be a remez in the psukim to whatever's in the navi or ksuvim. Sounds like he lived afterwards, and he was having coherent conversations with his nephew. And the wife is saying, "All right, you're becoming too precocious, too sharp for him. We don't want it to happen." Was the lashon that chat we had yesterday? Amalei, kame, let's leave him. The Lord levelach. I don't want him to do to you. Kedavid levelach. What did it to your dad, my husband? So it sounds like the timeline in the Gemara Matzia is that this was sort of very condensed. Rish Lakish was gone. He went crazy. They died by Davin Rachman on him, and he died. And over here it sounds not. Here it sounds like there was a period of time after Rish Lakish passed away where his son, who was very precocious, was able to get into conversation. Maybe it'll happen very, very short. I don't know, but it's still worthwhile to know. All right, continues the Gemara. So we're up to halfway down the page in Testament Al. Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan says, "Matar b'shvil yachid, parnasa b'shvil rabim." When it comes to rain, that can come for a yachid, but parnasa only can come for the cloud. So here we have an unbelievable Rashi. Rashi tells us if the water is only needed by one person, because let's say he planted later than everybody else, so he needs rain specifically when not everybody else needs it. Or he lives in a city that everyone is not Jewish. And he needs the rain, meaning Rashi is indicating that the rain is not coming for the schus of the goyim. It's coming only because of this yidol that's there. That is a very problematic notion. I can't really discuss it more, but the idea that the goyim don't have schusim and they wouldn't have rain that comes for them, this is not something that is sustained throughout Chazal. You can't see other situations where it's quite the opposite, right? Where the goyim do have schusim, right? We read Sefer Yaina, right? And one of the reasons that people give is, in fact, because the goyim are karv l'tshuva. They're also karv l'chet, but they're karv l'tshuva in the sense that they sometimes can certainly have skosim, which would enable them to have rain in the same way for us. In fact, sometimes by us it's more complicated because we are such akshanim as a nation that it's quite difficult to actually get things done. Yes, and then here's the part that I said we have to see in this Rashi. It's unbelievable. Rashi says, "Parnasa shefa tuva michel chol olam." Right, Parnasa is reference to the whole world, not just to one person. So, it doesn't come just for one guy. El b'shul rabbim, it comes for everybody. If it's a need that's going to be for the whole people, that they, let's say they need some bracha in the wheat. So then, in that situation, Kosh Baruch Hu Eisner. Kosh Baruch Hu could do it. Imzachu, if the people deserve it. Avol Yachid Atzarach Sheis Baruch Hu Tvuosav. This is the key words. If a single individual needs a bracha in his tvua, Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mishana Ba'avur Din Hashana El Kvi Baruch HaYisrael. Hashem's not going to change the whole world because of a single guy who's like, he needs something. Even if the rain can come down for one person, that's to help out a little bit on the edges. It shouldn't be worse than anybody else. So don't expect that Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to come along Mishana Teva for you. Hashem can help out with rain for an individual. Right? Rashi is going out of his way here to point something out. The Gemara told us that rain comes down for an individual. Parnasa is for a rabbi. So Rashi is telling you, too, just is a limitation. On the rain that's going to come down for an individual, don't expect that like you're the big tzaddik and you live, I don't know, the big tzaddik in Pesach, right? And let's say everybody else is not behaving so well. And everybody's lawn in the summer is yellow because it's going to be 100 degrees like it was yesterday. 100 degrees throughout the summer, everybody's lawn turns yellow, but yours is green. Well, could be you have the special magic of keeping your lawn always watered. Right, but let's say there was a drought and Pesach said nobody can water their lawn. So everybody's lawns are yellow, but yours is going to be green because you get special rain on your field. No, not going to happen. It's not going to happen in a manner that's going to be so uniquely obvious that we have one side and can say no. That's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is on the edges to ensure that individuals should not be losing out. For example, let's say that first example that Rashi gives us now becomes into play. Right, a person planted a little late, so Hashem will, on the edges, make sure that his will not be losing out. But don't think that it could be a situation where the whole place is not getting a harvest because there's a drought, but it rains mamash on your field alone. That's not going to happen. Yeah. So it says the Gemara. What's the raya that matter is b'shul yachin and parnas b'shul rabim? So Pasuk says, "T'chsev yiftach Hashem l'chos etzar atev losum ta'artzcho." Right, the pasuk says if you say v'idon you say it on Shabbos, Matzoi Shabbos, Yiftach Hashem l'chol esesor etzeves l'shemayim. Right, the pasuk there in Pasuk says Hashem should open up, right, his storehouses, l'seis mitar artzecha, right, to give you mutter for your land. Sounds like it's one person we're talking about. But Parnasa b'shul rab, how do we know that Parnasa is for the many? The siv hinni mamtu lechem lechem and hashemayim. Right, the pasuk tells us there by the man, Pasuk Shalach. Hashem says, I'm going to rain down to you, lechem and hashemayim. Right? For who's the you? This is the plural you. It's for the Jewish people. So you see that parnasa, right? This is sustenance for the rabbim is going to be b'schus the rabbim, and the sustenance for a single individual, that's a reference in the pasuk to rain, and that's why rain can come even for individuals. That's again with the caveat that we already mentioned from Rashi. So effectively more Meis for Rabbi Yehuda. There were three Parnasim Tevim who stood up for the Jews. Right? Parnasim, as I told you before, right, in the Spanish Portuguese community, they still call their the heads of the community the Parnas. Right? So there were three Parnasim, three leaders of the Jewish community who stood up for the Jewish people. Elohim, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. Yeah. So what do they do? What were they in charge of? And they were responsible for the receipt of three different great matanas. The Elohein, Be'er, Va'anan, Uman. Right? The Be'er, the well, the clouds, the Anan, Uman, right? And the Man were all b'schus of Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. So the Gemara explains. Be'er, b'schus Miriam. Amud Anan, b'schus Aaron. Man, b'schus Moshe. Right? So the Amud Anan actually points out is the Amud Anan, there were different Ananim, right? So there was an Anan. Now we got to do that slowly. There was an Anan Eish, Laila, the Pasuk tells us, right? There was a fiery cloud that was at night. That's not what Rashi says, that's the Schutz Aaron. The Schutz Aaron was Anan Ekavit, right? That sort of kept the temperature down in the desert, that surrounded the Machane. That was the Schus Aaron. The water was Bishvil Miriam, right? That there was a rock. Rashi says Stella of the Zav Menomai, right? The Stella would pour from it water. That was Bishvil Miriam, and the man was Bishvil Moshe. So what happened? Mason Miriam passed away, and the Stala Be'er. So the Be'er goes away. There's no more water. Shenem Batam Shem Miriam. Pasuk says that Miriam passed away. Chsiv Basrim, right after we have the Parshas Chukas. You look carefully. The pasuk says "V'lo hoya mayim lo'ita." There was not enough water for the Ada to drink, and that's where you have the whole story of Mei Meriva, where Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu to have a dibartim alasela le'enei heaven asa meimav. Rashi points out unbelievable. Look at Rashi. Rashi in the Divrei Maskil is Chazor b'Schushnein Shekeng Siv v'dibartem. You see in your Rashi, I don't know if you have it. What's the next word? V'dibartem Shnechem el hasela. Right, the lashon of the pasuk when you thought about hitting the rock. Right, who gets punished for hitting the rock? Moshe and Aaron. Ya'an lo ye'amantim bilak d'shein le'ibnei Yisrael. Lochein lo yisaviu. What do you mean, lo ye'amantim? What did Aaron do wrong? Aaron heichan ha'isa. What did Aaron do wrong? Moshe didn't hit the rock. What did Aaron do wrong? So the first one all bothered. What did Aaron do wrong? I say what Moshe did wrong. What did Aaron do wrong? So you have different approaches. The basic general approach is Aaron should have said something. He should have said, "Hey, bro, maybe let's talk about this. You have a job, right? Your job is to do something. Stand up if what you think is right." Rashi is pointing out an additional point here that not all the Mepharshim bring out. This is not the right. It's not Rashi. It's because Rashi doesn't say this is Chumash. That's interesting. I think. Yeah, I didn't think about that. We have to, put down the list. Yeah, that's a good one. Right? What is Rashi pointing out here? Vidibartem shneim. The command, right, was vidibartem, not just Moshe Rabbeinu to talk to the rock. Rashi is pointing out both of them had a job to talk to the rock. So Moshe Rabbeinu is not doing his job; he's preparing the stick. So you talk to the rock. You have a job also. That I think is Rashi's pointing out. I don't know that any Mefarshim that I current to me right now pointing this out in the Chumash. That the Barton was on Aaron that he had a job to speak to, not just to stop Moshe Rabbeinu, but to actively on his own speak to the rock. Yeah. All right. So the water was b'schus Miriam, and she's not here. And what did the pasuk say? Right. Eventually, they had water again. How? How did they have water again? Because of Aaron and Moshe. Even though there was no more Miriam, they still had the water. Mace Aaron. Aaron obviously dies thereafter. The stock on Ananiah covered. So then the Ananiah covered are gone. Right, the pasuk right after Aaron's death says that the Kanani Melech Harad, whether or not this is the real Kanani, right? Chazal say this is that could be Amalek, but they heard what Mashmu Hashamo, right? The same lashon that Chazal say about Yisrael, Veishma Yisrael, about Mashmu Hashamo. But what did he hear? What do the Canaanites hear, or the Amalekites? What do they hear? Mashmu Hashama, Shama Shemes Aaron, Mistal Kanani Kovid. They heard that Aaron passed away, and there was no more protective awning around the Jewish people. There's no more anonim. And they thought now they have permission to go fight the Jews. And that's what it means in Pasuk that the Jewish people saw that Aaron died. Now this is, if you look at there in the Pasuk, the Pasuk there is talking about that Aaron goes up, right? Aaron goes up with Moshe and Elazar. That's the last time Aaron, his farewell. And everyone knows when Moshe and Elazar come down, by Aaron, everyone knew Aaron is not coming back. Right, that's it. That har. Moshe, Aaron, Elazar go up. Only Moshe and Elazar come down. By Aaron, everyone understood. This is it. Aaron's not coming back. That's the Pashup shot. But the Gemara is dashing. By Aaron, that the people saw that Aaron was no longer. That Amar Abavo al Tikri Vayiru Ela Vayiro doesn't mean that they saw Aaron was dead only. Yes, it does mean that, as Rashi pointed out. On the basic level of shad, yes, that still means that. But we're adding here another layer. And what's another layer? Bavo is telling you that you don't have to read it merely as they saw. Elavayiro, they were seen. The people realized that they were seen. Vayiro kol Eda. The Eda was now seen. Why? Because Aaron had passed away. So ki now becomes a lashon of because the people were seen. They no longer had an aniyah covered. Why? Because Aaron had passed away. Okay, the Dorish Resh Lakish, and over here we have a very famous fundamental drasha of Resh Lakish. The Resh Lakish ki mishamish ba'arba l'shainis. The key can mean four different things. And what can it mean? Right? It can mean like if or Dilma, maybe, Ella, right? It could be but or da, because. Those are the four options of what big key could be. And over here, it could be what? Here, the key is going to become because. Vayiro kol the whole people saw, the people were seen. Why? Ki ga'ava Aaron, because Aaron had passed away. Right? So now the Aaron is no longer, there's no more Anan HaKavod, the people are being seen, and that's why Vayishma Kanani Melech Arad, Yeshiv Negev, Vayilachem B'Yisrael, Vayishma Menu Shevi, and that whole thing happens because the Jewish people are now being seen, the cloud cover is gone. Again, you see that this was B'Schos Aaron, they had a cloud cover. Now the Gemara continues, and the Gemara says, Chazru, right? Chazru Shneim B'Schos Moshe. So now you have the missing cloud cover, you have the missing water. It came back both because of Moshe Rabbeinu. Mace Moshe, when Moshe passed away, Nistalku Kula, they lose everything. Right? We know that the man is not actually lost. If you look technically in Yeshua, they still have the man all the way until Pesach, right, when they already crossed over into the land. Somehow there was a miraculous miracle in the man lasted, but it didn't fall anymore. Once they crossing over the Yarden, there's no more man falling. The man that lasted is like, we said in the Pasuk, in Bishalach, that when the month fell by Friday, it was Lechem Yomayim, came down for 2 days extra, and you weren't supposed to go out and collect the next day, right? Dastan Avirim, whatever. The people went out to collect, they didn't trust, they were nervous, whatever the reasons. The bread, the mun was able to, normally it would become moldy after a day, and you weren't supposed to save it over. But here, it lasts for 2 days. That was a special bracha for Shabbos. So the same thing is true for those 2 weeks after they cross over. When they cross over, they still get for the next month into Nisan. They still have the remainder of the month somehow miraculously lasted for them. But eventually, it's all gone. So the Gemara says, we still didn't get to the question yet. So the Gemara says, the pasuk in Zechariah, Shneimar, the pasuk tells us there, V'achid es shlois saroim b'yerech echad, and I stopped, or I got rid of the 3 shepherds in 1 month. Who are the 3 shepherds of the Jewish people? Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. What do you mean? You stopped the 3 shepherds in 1 month? Did Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam die in the same time? No. Miriam Mesa ben Nisan. Miriam died in Nisan. Aaron Ba'av. Right? Aaron is the only yard that's mentioned in the Torah. We have the mamish, the precise date. He died in Chodesh Av. Moshe Adar, and Moshe died in Adar. And we say Zayin Adar, he died. So you see, they died in 3 different months. What do you mean? The pasuk says Zechariah, and I'm going to stop the 3 shepherds in 1 month. It didn't 1 month; it was 3 months. El Malamish and his battle gil matanes teves shenosnu al yadon v'nistalku kulam b'yerech echad. What it means to say is that these 3 matanes that were given al Yidei, the 3 are right, which is Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, the man, the Anani HaKavod, and the Be'er, those 3 things all stopped at the same time. The moment they all stop when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. So the more now gets to the question. Alma Ashka Parnasa Bishvil Yochid. So you see at Parnasa what? For one guy. One person, Moshe Rabbeinu, takes everything. He is bringing Parnasa for the whole Jewish people. So the more Shani Moshe came to the Rabbim who boy Karam Dami. Moshe Rabbeinu is different because he was asking for the people, so therefore he's Karam Dami. He's considered like a rabbin. This reminds us of a Gemara in Brachas. The Gemara here told us on Lamed Beis. The Gemara told us unbelievable Gemara. Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, go down from your Gedula. Moshe, raid Migdula. After the Jewish people sin with the Egel, you go down from your Gedula. You're only great because of the Jewish people. And now the Jews have sinned, so what do I need you for? And that after that, Moshe Rabbeinu lost his strength and he has to daven for the beginnings of the Jewish people. What do we see? Moshe Rabbeinu's entire godless was because of the Jewish people. His sui generis ability to be misnavad. No one else in the world, not before or after, had aspect I am here like Moshe Rabbeinu. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu have that? Yes, he was a superlative. We don't have enough for what kind of human being he was. The greatest human being who ever walked the face of the earth, for sure. Nothing comes close. But Moshe Rabbeinu was only all that because of the schus of the Jewish people. If the Jewish people have sinned, if they have no schus, then Moshe Rabbeinu, you get down too. You're not going to get this without them. In the same way that Moshe Rabbeinu becomes so great on account of the Jewish people, so he gets all this unbelievable schusim. Aaron was great, Miriam was great. Moshe Rabbeinu alone can sustain it. But Moshe Rabbeinu is gone. The Jewish people have a problem. They're no longer deserving of it. Moshe Rabbeinu is gone. Why are you getting this stuff? It's all gone. You see it on both ends. Moshe Rabbeinu becomes the greatest Navi because of the Jewish people, and as a result, become the greatest human being. He now is able to have the bright, the flights, to have the air, the man, and the Anania covered on his back. He's no longer here. So you lose everything. All right. So the Gemara. So now the Gemara says Rav Huna bar Menoach, Rav Shmuel bar Idi, Rav Chia mivas Tanya. It almost sounds like it's from Russia, but it's not. So wherever exactly this place was, these three rabbis have a shliach kanei de Rava. They were hanging out in Bavel by Rava. Ki Noach nafsh de Rava. So when Rava passed away, also the kamei de Rav Papa, they came to learn by Rav Papa. Whenever Rav Papa would say over a vart, so they have Mistaverlu, and they didn't like it. Have Ramzi Adadi. They would point to each other and be like. Rashi's lashon is Narenu Barbitin Zelazeh. They would make faces and point to each other. He doesn't give up a good Torah like Rava. Right? So you can imagine he didn't love it, Rav Papa. Right? He was very, very upset. Now, you might have remembered that we just had the Gemara. Right? We had the Gemara that we said that what? That a person has a situation, right, where they are. What was the Gemara? Yeah. So the Gemara said to us on Zion Amanal, Harbe lamadati meraboisai, mechadera yoysa meraboisai, mitalmida yoysa mekulan. Right. That the greatest learning experience, right, that a Rebbe can have is not just simply on his own or from his Rabbeim or from his buddies, but from his Talmidim, he can learn the most. So you would think maybe he shouldn't be Cholash Daitei, right? But we saw in Gemara B'Metziah, Pei Daled, Rabbi Yechanan was Cholash Daitei, which Lakish was arguing with him. Now we have here a Gemara where Rav Papa is given shir, and you have three guys who are students from Rava, and they don't like the shir, and so they're being Maramaz Adadi, that they don't like the shir. Cholash Daitei. So what do you see? You see the Gemara doesn't hide from the truth. This is what happened. As great as these Rabbanim were, and you can't even imagine Rav Papa, but they were human. They have Chalishas Das. These students are not acting, when you say, in what sense? Like the sense like Rabbi Yechanan said, Berish Lakish, you asked me 24 kashas, but to be making fun of me, I'm human. Right? To be making fun of me, the Maramzah, they're not asking me a shiloh what I'm saying. They say it's not good Torah. They're making fun of me. I'm not like Rava. That's not enhancing the learning. That's making my ego be crushed. So Rav Papa's, the Gemara is telling us about it. Rav Papa's Cholash died there. And what happened? He had a dream. So we turn the page on a Tesla base. Akur b'chalme. He had it in a dream. V'achar es-shloshes haroyim. Right? That it's going to be the loss of the three shepherds. As we just said in the same pasuk before, right? V'achar es-shloshes haroyim b'yerech hachon. You lose the three shepherds in 1 month. What do you mean? They didn't die in 1 month. So we said the schus of the three shepherds that end up going on Moshe Rabbeinu, that terminated in 1 month. So he's saying, what did he realize in the dream? Rav Papa realized in the dream that these three musketeers, what's going to happen to them? They're going to go. So listen to what he said. L'machar, Gavin Miftri Mineh, when they were saying goodbye to him, Amalu, Leslie, Rabbanan, Bishlam. He said to them, go in peace. Now remember, this is actually a very, very nasty line. And the Gemara doesn't point it out here. But if you look in Brachas, you understand what kind of a line this was. He had a dream, and in this dream, it indicates that they're going to die. The Gemara tells them to end the brachas. The Gemara says, Amar Rab Oven Alevi, and if the mechaveri, when you are leaving your friend, Al Yomer Lo Lech B'Shalom, don't say Lech B'Shalom. El Lech L'Shalom, say Lech, go in peace, not Lech B'Shalom, go with peace. Why? Shavei Yisrael Malay L'Moshe Lech L'Shalom, Yisrael said to Moshe Ben Lech L'Shalom, Allah v'Hatzlech, he became very successful. David Amar Avshalom Lech B'Shalom, he said to Avshalom, go in peace, and he, of course, went and he died. Amar Rab Oven Alevi, and if the Menameis, when you are taking leave from a dead person, Al Yomer Lech L'Shalom, you don't say Lech L'Shalom, El Lech B'Shalom. Shenemar, the pasuk says, Hashem says to Avram, "Va'atot tavel avesecha b'shalom tikaver b'seiva tova." So we say when you're going away from a dead person, Lech B'Shalom. When you're going away from somebody alive and you want him to have success, you say Lech L'Shalom. What did he say? What did Prophet say to the three gentlemen? Lech B'Shalom. He's essentially wishing them that that's it. You're done. All right? Unbelievable Gemara. Yeah. So the Gemara continues the Gemara. Rav Shnei bar Ashi. Have a shliach come into Rav Papa. Another situation. Rav Ashi was learning in front of Rav Papa. Have a maksheli tuvi, asked him so many questions. One day he saw that he fell on his face. Right? By when? By Tachanon. Yeah, this is a whole thing about the kind of falling on one's face that one does by Tachanon. Yeah, this reminds us of the Gemara Megillah. The Gemara Megillah there on Fav Beis, right? The you fall on your face fully. You fall on your face, so whatever. Over there it says that Rava would just go on the hands, and that's how we do it. In fact, we don't fall on the face by Tachon. Yeah. So Shama the Omar, he heard that Rav Papa was saying during Tachon, please save me from him being embarrassed by Simi. He's asking me so many kashas. Kabul olesh dikusa v'sulei aksha. So he took it himself being quiet. And he didn't ask anymore. So this Gemara bothers you, right? Why? Because here Rav Sim Barashi is not asking to shlag him up. He's not asking in a way that's mendacious. He's asking good kashas. And this is what you would think, Rav Talmida Yosem Mikulam. And nevertheless, he's embarrassed. Rav Papa's embarrassed. He's ashamed that he's getting slugged up by this really precocious man. So he davens in Tachlan, they should be saved from the embarrassment of Simi. So then Simi takes on it. He's not going to ask him any more kashas. You're not going to ask any more questions. What does the Gemara from Sipei Dal tell us? Rabbi Yochanan said, it was Rav Cheshmaitza. Or Shlokish freaked me up. I had to come up with the answer. Memela Rav Cheshmaitza. Now it's not going to be Rav Cheshmaitza. Here you're not going to have me Talmidei Yosem Mikulam. So this is a question. The other story we understand. Maybe Rav Papa's reaction is understandable because they're making fun of him. The ultimate reaction of Lech B'Shalom, fine. But this one is a more difficult one to understand. Yeah. All right, let's try to run through the next thing. So Afar Shlokish, even Rish Lakish agrees that mother comes with Shul Yachid. In other words, Rabbi Yochanan said it. If you remember, the more back on test. Now it's saying Va'af Rish Lakish. Even Rish Lakish agrees with Rabbi Yochanan on this. What do you mean Va'af? I don't know why you need Va'af. Nevertheless, even Rish Lakish. By the way, I should point out that look at all the tests on the Testament base, and there's all the Pirish variety, right? So you see again more of these proofs. Yeah. So here we have. Rish Lakish even agrees that Mata comes for Yachid. How do you know that Mata comes for only one person? That's it. The pasuk says in Zechariah as follows: Shalu me Hashem mitar beis malkash. He asked for Hashem for rain that's going to come at the remember the Yerish is the Yer is the early rain, Malkash is the late rain. He asked for Hashem rain, the ace of the Malkash, the later rains. So Hashem can make big thunder clouds and Matar Geshem and it's going to pour the rain. Yitilem leish ace of the sun. It's going to come the rain to a man. Right, to a grass in the field. So we dash now. Yochel, you think it's going to come for everybody? The rain? No. It can come down for one person, the rain. So that's what you see. The Shlakish holds is similar to Rabbi Yochanan. The mutter can come down even for a single person. B'tanya ila ish. So if you're going to say, well, it's going to come only for a single man, Yochel so maybe you're going to say it's going to come down for all those fields. Talmud Loimer said that. Doesn't mean all of those fields. If he's a big plantation owner, he has a lot of acres. What did the pasuk say? Yitain lahem leish esev b'sadeh. It can be even only one field. So you might think it's going to come for the whole field. Notice how the drasha here is darshan the later word before the earlier word, but now we're going back to the word before. Esev b'sadeh, right? What is esev? It's like a grass, a plant, a piece of the field, not even the whole field. The Talmud Lama esev. That's what it means. Even just one bush, one area of the field. So in other words, Rish Lakish holds that a mother come down b'shvil yachid, and it can come down so perfectly. It can come down specifically in one area that you have, the rain can come there alone. And the Gemara brings a right of Daniel Bar Katina, right? Rav Daniel Bar Katina, Havala Hayi Ginsa. He had a nice garden. Kol Yom have a Ozil V'Sayil. Every day he would go out and check it out. Now this reminds us of the Gemara in Chul and Kufay. The Gemara over there says two stories. One is about Mar Ukva, and the next one is about Shmuel. The Gemara says both of them that they're sort of like Chalabar Chamal Gabi of him. They're like not so good like their dads. So Ma'ukah is very famous. That's where it becomes the idea of waiting between milk and meat, because his father would wait after he ate meat for a whole day. He wouldn't eat milk. And Ma'ukah, no, he only waits between meals. Again, what between meals? The Taisvis, Shita, right? You switch the tablecloth. That's enough. Rambam 6 hours. That's where we get the whole thing from there. Fine. The next story of the Gemara there is the Gemara says that Shmuel says, "I'm also mamash like Chalabar Chamer Magabe Avi." My father, he's sire nichsa kol yom 2 times. Every day he goes out to the field to check out how his field is doing 2 times. This is Amud Shmuel. 2 times he goes to check out the field. And Shmuel says, I just go out to check once. This becomes part of one of my stories that I used to prove the idea that the rabbis, not only were they amazing learners, of course they were the greatest, but they also worked. Amud Shmuel checked his field twice a day. Shmuel checked it once a day. That's the more than Chulin Kov Hey. And the Meiri over there says in Chulin that when it means Asay Taras Lakeva, it means that you could still that not all day, but nevertheless you still have to continue to check your parnasa, how it's doing. So it says the Gemara here, Neo Bar Katina, that he would sire his ginta every single day. So Amar Ham Mishra Bayamaya. He would say, oh, this piece needs some water, right? The High Mishra Loy Bayamaya. And he said, this part of it doesn't need water. V'asa Mishra V'ka Mashki. And the water would come in Mamish, the areas that he said needed it. Wherever needed it, that's where Mamish come. Okay, we have to stop over here.